Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for Stranger Things Season 3, Episode 7. Alright, so I thought as a second last episode, this one was a little bit lackluster. I like parts of this episode, but other parts I didn't really enjoy as much. But I think as a standalone episode, like if this was episode 4, 5, or even 6, I think this one would have worked really well. But for it being the second last episode and trying to set us up to really get into this finale, I just felt like it didn't work that well in that way, in that aspect. But anyways, making my way through it here with Stranger Things Season 3. The finale should be up in the next couple of days. I do really want to finish this up and get my review out for the rest of the season here. But anyways, love to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode and the series, or the season, I guess, in general. What you thought of it and how does it compare to other seasons. As I said in my last review, I've seen a lot of stuff out there, a lot of debate happening. And again, I'm not ready to quite rank them or, crown this one the best or that one the best. But I think I will say that it is better than season 2 in my opinion so far. But we'll have to see how the finale shapes up and how it ends. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Would really appreciate that as well. But without any further ado, let's get to a little bit of a recap of the episode. Then it gets my rating, favorite character, and some more overall thoughts and predictions as to what we might see going into the finale and kind of the things that I would like to see. So yeah, we'll get to all that. So first, we start off with the best scene of the episode. And I mean, I think hands down, the best scene of the episode. Just an epic monster fight scene, which, I think Stranger Things, of course, the kids and the character dynamics, the relationships have always been at the forefront, but these kind of big monster fights have also been at the forefront, and this, I think, is one of the best scenes or sequences, whichever you like, of the series. I really enjoyed this start to the episode. So I believe we actually start off this one with the mayor at the fair, and then the little girl, Mike's little sister, who's grown up now a little bit, right? Anyway, so his little sister sees the monster, walking through the trees when the fireworks are going off. So I did really like the settings in this one, setting up for July 4th, and of course, it comes out July 4th here, so, we kind of knew that was going to be the backdrop for this season, and they did that really well throughout this episode. Anyways, so just a crazy scene to begin. So we see Nancy, Mike, and the others listen to Eleven tell them what happened with Billy. And of course, we saw at the very end of last episode where she finally did come back and Mike and them comforted her. So as she tells them what happened to Billy, Billy wants to kill all of them. They built the army for her, all this stuff that we heard last episode. They figure out that he now knows exactly where they are because he just came and visited her in that house, right? In the upside down, in this different dimension. So he can see where they are, and now he knows exactly where they are. And by he, really it means the Mind Flayer, right? Because the Mind Flayer is behind Billy at the moment, or controlling him. So then they go to look outside, and the Mind Flayer monster is coming right for them through the forest. I thought this was really cool. And again, the monster we've seen kind of building up and building up and building up, and now it looks like it's at full strength and ready to take them on. So they quickly board up the doors and windows and get ready for the attack. We see them stand back to back. This was very similar, I mean, pretty much almost the exact same of how they did the shots as well with the Demogorgon attack, where we saw Jonathan and Nancy in Season 1. I think we may have had something similar in Season 2 with Steve, Dustin, was it Lucas, and I can't remember who, and Max. And Max was there too. And they were, getting ready for the demo dogs to come. Anyways, so a very similar shot that we've seen before, with all the kids kind of going back to back and kind of circling around. They don't know where it's going to come from, but they know it's got to come out soon. So everything goes silent until, of course, we get this jump scare, right? Suddenly a tentacle or arm, I guess I'll call it an arm here, of this monster breaks through this wall, breaks through the one wall and tries getting at them. We see Nancy drop her rifle, and the arm looks like it has her. So a really quick thing here, knocks the rifle out of her hand, and of course she's the sharpshooter of the group, I suppose, after what we learned in season 1. So, I guess none of them have learned to shoot a gun, including Jonathan. So anyways, so the gun gets taken out of her hands. The arm of this monster looks like it's about to get her until, of course, we were waiting for it. 11 holds the arm back with her powers, and then we see she eventually snaps it at the end. And this was interesting too, how she's able to essentially just break off the parts of this of this monster very easily, it looks like. And so that's what she does here. So she basically snaps off the end of the arm, which is the one that it's kind of controlling. We saw this with the flayed too, where it kind of makes contact and just, almost suctions onto you. And that's how it would do damage to you. And then also we see that it can bite you, as we see with 11 at the end. So anyways, then the arm retracts to only then send 2 more arms in through the wall, which 11 successfully snaps off as well. Again, just a really intense sequence here with some really great special effects as well. I can't forget to mention that. So then as things settle, we're kind of okay, 3 arms have went in, right? How many arms does this guy, have? How many arms does this monster have? And so things kind of settling down. We're like, is going to be another one? And of course it is, right? 11 is grabbed by the ankle by another arm. And now we see the monster's head peering down through the roof, through this hole in the roof that he's made. Just a really great sight. And again, some really great special effects. Really looked realistic here. I mean, the budget and the overall just visual sense of the show has never been a negative. I mean, it's never been a question at all throughout the 3 seasons, and this looks really great. So it basically takes everybody to pull her back, basically grab onto her and don't let her go. Don't let her get taken up by that arm. As we know, the monster's kind of holding its mouth open like he's ready to chew her down, right, and finally be able to kill her. And then, obviously, going to kill the kids. So anyways, it takes everybody to pull her back. And then we see, Nancy is the one trying to shoot the thing, trying to get the arm off of 11. And eventually, Lucas, he sees the axe on the ground, and he finally picks it up. So that was like, okay, finally somebody grabbed it. So he grabs the axe, and he is able to essentially axe or cut off the arm that, that has a hold of 11 here, which then leads to her splitting the monster's head open. Really great sequence here. She gets let down from the arm, and then she's just had enough, right? Like, she looks up to this monster, and then kind of holds out her hand. It does look a little bit cringe at times, but anyways, she holds up her hand, and all of a sudden this monster's head just splits in two. It was a really awesome scene there, and this gives them a window, of course, to escape, as the monster then needs to repair itself. So obviously this doesn't kill it, because we've seen before. I mean, it's just really just a mashup of various, kind of piles of guts. You know what I mean? And so this thing could just reform and repair itself at any time, but it will take itself a little bit longer to do so. So they're able to escape. They get in the car and they drive off. And it's just an intense sequence here to begin the episode. Really sets the tone. And then the whole rest of the episode is just downhill from there, in my opinion. Like, this tone that they set here just really, like, balls to the wall, madness, intensity, suspense, the horror is there. And then the rest of the episode is rather light in those elements. So to me, just a little bit disappointing. But anyways, I also thought here, too, that they were kind of building up that the monster is finally strong enough to take down 11, right? But as we see in this scene, 11 actually rather easily is able to dismantle the monster still, and it's not able to stop 11. So I'm wondering if it still isn't at its full strength now, and that's what we're going to see in the finale, or maybe this is all it's got, and maybe 11 is just really that good. I don't know. Anyway, so meanwhile at the mall, we see Dustin, Erica, Steve, and Robin make their escape through the elevator. They get up to the theater in the mall. And just a really great sequence here. And again, always trying to build on that 80s kind of genre nostalgia stuff. And they do a great job with that with Ghostbusters in Season 2. They do it again here. So we see Dustin and the group kind of break into that one of the theaters, the theater rooms, where Back to the Future is playing. So I thought that was just a really awesome touch. for them to put that in there. Like I said, similar to the Ghostbusters references in season 2. Just a really great moment there. And of course, Back to the Future, an iconic movie, even still today. I mean, yeah, you know, it came out in 85, but still massive hit today. So I thought that was really great. I mean, you think about it, right? Like, people growing up at that time watching the show are going to get it. And people even now are going to get that, right? They've seen Back to the Future. So that was a really great part. We see Steve and Robin are still drugged at this point, and so Erica is put in charge of watching them. And this was a kind of, to me, an overplayed gimmick in the episode. I mean, you know, we've seen this lots of times where, you know, characters are drugged, they look up at the lights and things are spinning, and, you know, they say things they shouldn't say. I don't know. I just thought this was a little bit cringe at times. Just kind of lazy writing here, right? Just nothing new and nothing really original about that whole dynamic, but I digress. So we see then Dustin tries to radio Mike and the others, just making for such a chilling moment when Mike then reacts to Dustin's voice at the convenience store. Just like really chilling moment there. And I will say, it's like, and the way this all plays out at the end too, with them seeing you know, each other and these groups getting together again, it's like this could have been what the whole season was, you know what I mean? So it is both. I think it's a great moment, but it's also a little bit disappointing, or at least it causes you to pause and say, well, couldn't we have just had these characters together the whole time? So I don't know. Although I will say I love the Dustin, Steve, Robin, and Erica dynamic, even though it's not what I was really expecting. I actually liked it. So you know, I guess it's hard to say whether or not, you know, it would be better with all the kids together or apart. And that's what they've done in the last couple of seasons as well. So can't really blame them there. So Mike picks up from the convenience store the radio, but just before he admits he loves 11. So he picks up the call from Dustin, the code red, right? That was big in season 2. He picks up the radio right before he's able to admit that he loves 11. And again, it's like, that scene was good. It was kind of charming. It was cute. And it's just cut off. Like, no, like, let's see him admit that love, and then we get the call. You know what I mean? It would have just been a little bit more satisfying. Anyway, so they get on the call, but the connection is not great. Mike can't really hear what Dustin is saying, although he makes out some words, and that's actually what leads them then later to the mall, which is valuable. So it's not like it was for nothing, right? But Dustin's kind of screaming in and telling him all this stuff, and Mike can't hear, pretty much he can't hear a thing. Right, so then we see Dustin's talkie dies, and so does Plan A, as he says. So now they're forced to go into Plan B instead of just calling 11 and the group to come and save them after all. So then we see Hopper. So I thought this part of the episode was also rather disappointing. Hopper and company finally arrive back in Hawkins at the fair after Alexi tells them how to stop the device from opening the gate. Hopper believes that they will still need the cavalry just to get in, though, right? And I don't think he uses the cavalry. I think he says it'll take our army, but the cavalry is what we've been used before in the previous episodes. But again, really great sequence here. Murray is the name of the guy, but I love calling him the conspiracy guy, or Mr. Conspiracy. That's how I refer to him as. Anyway, so the Murray and Alexi dynamic in this episode was great, and that's how they find out this, of course, from the translation. So then, while at the fair, they split up and are quickly spotted by Mayor Klein, who calls in the Russian assassin. So my kind of gripe with this is, why would they go to the fair to look for their kids, right? Because they figure that the kids are at the fair. Everyone's at the fair, right? You know, like it's July 4th. All kids in the town are at the fair. So they go and look for their kids. But they know that the mayor and these Russians still there in the town are looking for them and are going to kill them right when they see them. You know what I mean? And so I thought this was just like, what? Like, it was more of putting these characters in this place rather than actually thinking about why they would go there. Or at least that's how I saw this. So I was rather disappointed with how this all played out. Kind of how we got there rather than it played out. Because I did like some of the sequences here. But it's like they're spotted right away. Like, why would they go back to the fair when they knew that the Russians were most likely there, the mayor was there, and that they could be spotted? So it was just really kind of frustrating there. But anyways, so we see Joyce and Hopper then look for the kids. We see... this was really great. So we see them go to find Karen Wheeler on this ride, who's just absolutely no help. I mean, she's like, well, I think they're at Max's or Lucas's, so she doesn't even know where her own kids are. Both kids, right? Because Nancy's there too. So that was just a really kind of funny, charming scene there where they go to Karen. She's absolutely no help. And the dad has been kind of a comedic relief, and he's really great too. So anyways, we see then the conspiracy guy and Alexei, they decide to walk around at the fair instead of staying in the car. They kind of let loose a little bit. I think Murray, the conspiracy guy, feels bad for Alexei because he hasn't experienced some of the, American stuff, the July 4th type of environment, and so he kind of lets him go, right? He lets Alexei come with them to the fair, which is a terrible decision. I mean, just a terrible decision. Again, why would they not think there's Russians out here that are trying to kill us, right? And if they see us, they're gonna shoot us right there on the spot. Again, just kind of, a little bit off here, right? So anyways, we see Murray leaves them to get a corn dog, and we see Alexei ends up winning a prize at a game. And as he's walking back with the prize, a smile on his face, he's all happy. The Terminator guy, the fake Terminator, the assassin, comes up in front of him and then shoots him in the chest with a silencer. It's so quiet and quick that nobody even realizes at the fair that this guy's just been shot. Although, there are a few people around him, I guess, but nobody even realizes it. And I really like the way that they shot this too, that kind of like breaks into slow motion. The sounds kind of are put on hold almost, and it's just a silent, few moments here where he gets shot, and the Terminator guy just keeps walking, right? And just a really, really great way that this this plays out here. So then we see Murray then takes him behind the trailer, and when he comes back with Joyce, they find Alexei dead. So you do kind of feel bad for him, and it is kind of sad the way this all went down. But he was a traitor to the Russians, right? He was in danger. We knew that if the Russians had found him, he would get shot and killed. And again, that just speaks back to why would Murray even take him into the fair to begin with when he knew he was in danger. So, not that I blame Murray, it's not his fault, but I'm just saying, not the best decision. Definitely a surprising death though, and I think that's what added to the emotion of it. And because Alexei's not a big character, just kind of a charming character that came along in the last couple episodes. So it is sad to see him go, but, not a main player by any means. So then we see, meanwhile, Hopper splits up from them and tells them to pull the car around back. So then he runs into the big boy, it says kind of playhouse building. And I didn't know what really to call this. I'm sure it does have a better name, but it's kind of like a playhouse where you have all these types of different rooms and you go in, you walk around, stuff like that. So he goes in here to escape the Russian henchmen, right? The Terminator guy, but then also these other henchmen guys. There's about 4, I think, or 5 or 6 of them. They're all traveling with them. And then as he enters the building, he tells this, dad to get his kids out of there because he knows that something's going to go down. So he enters the punching bag room, and then we see one of the men comes in, and he makes quick work of him, knocking him out there, and ends up throwing one of the punching bags, or one of the kind of dangling bags from the ceiling there, onto this guy. Just a really satisfying scene playing out there. But then we see the Terminator assassin guy comes in, and he follows Hopper into a mirror room. And I thought this was a really great setting for this scene, but also the last one too. Just the colors, the lights, and the way these scenes play out with the direction, really, really great. So, I'm not going to knock them for that. I thought it was really great the way they played out. So after a few moments of really suspenseful stuff, we just see this Terminator guy just walking around very slowly, ready to kill whatever pops out. So we see then he actually tracks down Hopper, right? Terminator guy, he tracks down Hopper, but he ends up firing at the mirror in front of him because Hopper is actually coming out from behind him, and it's hard to tell what's the mirror and what's the hallway, right, in this kind of mirror maze. So I thought it was really cool the way this played out. Then we see Hopper come out from behind him out of the hallway and actually fires at him, right? He doesn't fire at a mirror. He actually fires at him, knocking him down. But of course, he's got a vest on. Right, but of course, right, he's got a bulletproof vest on, and he stands up right. He basically stands right away, right? Like he's up on his feet, and now he's joined by his other men who kind of come in, and he's like, just pushes them aside. Like, what are you guys doing, right? Like I'm here. I just got shot, and where are you guys, right? He's running away. So. Anyways, I thought it was, again, a really cool sequence, but I do like this, though, that he didn't just go down that easily. It's going to take a little bit more to get rid of this guy. So we see Hopper's able to run out and basically slide down this slide, which was really great. Kind of a charming, kind of funny scene there as well. So they get away in the car out back. Hopper finds out Alexei died, and a good reaction here, I think, too. He wasn't too attached to him. Just an episode ago, he hated the guy. So, for him to, be in tears or something like that would have been a little bit unrealistic. Anyway, so then from the radio that he lifted off the man from before, they hear that the Russians have locked down the Starcourt Mall and that the kids are trapped inside. So, really great stuff here. And that's where we end off with them. So now we see after Dustin and company try to escape through the front doors. This is plan B, I guess. So they try to blend in and sneak through the front doors, but it doesn't work. So they're spotted and are forced to run down to the lower level of the mall. They slide down the escalator. Not even the escalator, like the railing of the escalator. And they're able to get down to the lower part of the mall. And then we see, just as the Russians kind of hone in on them, the one finds out exactly where they are. So they hone in on them, and as they're hiding behind that ice cream counter. And suddenly, a car horn sounds. And, of course, it's 11. She is the one doing it. And to me, I was like, right at first, I'm like, well, how did they know they were at the mall, right? But I think Mike mentions it a little bit later as well, or maybe earlier here, that they did figure out that he said he was at the movies in that earlier radio message. And so they didn't know, of course, what that meant, but they come into the mall just looking for him at the movies, and then they see all these Russians, and they try to piece things together. So anyways, I thought that was okay. I think they heard the message, and they were able to get to the mall fast enough. So then we see, after the car horn sounds, she then sends the car flying into the Russians, killing them all. Really awesome stuff there. Just really great. And again, the special effects here were really great. That car flying looked really realistic. And just really some great stuff there, killing the Russians. A really great way to do it, too. Really satisfying. So then we see Dustin looks up and sees them. And just what a reaction here, right, from Dustin. Just a reaction of pure happiness and excitement to see his friends again, to finally be reunited. We almost need a reunited, and it feels so good. Little kind of sequence playing out there, because it was just really great. So we see Elle and them then come down to the ice cream counter, and the two groups chat and catch up on all the things that had happened in between. Just really great, right? So when they were apart, so much stuff happens, and they're just trying to catch each other up. They're trying to, tell each other about these secret Russians, the monster, right? All of this stuff that neither of them have any idea about this whole season. And again, that's another thing too, is I feel like some of this stuff in this episode should have happened last episode, because now they got one episode to put everything together. And these, like Dustin and them, they haven't even seen the monster yet. They don't even know what the Flayed is. And so they got one episode to piece this all together. Really crazy stuff. So I will say it was a nice sequence here with the camera work. Made it feel exhausting just hearing about all this new information at once, and just really captured the feeling of what those kids would feel, right? It's like, oh, this happened? No, this happened? Wait, what? And so I really enjoyed that little sequence there. All right, so then while they're talking, 11 kind of walks away a little bit, and she is in pain. Really crazy end to this one. So she covers her ears, blocking out this sound, this kind of loud screeching noise, and then she collapses to the ground. She says there's something wrong with her leg. Just really crazy. So then they peel off the gauze from her leg and they see something moving beneath her wound. Wow. Like, that was just a horrifying visual, by the way. And they only showed it, I think, for about 3 seconds or so of this thing just moving back and forth under her leg. Just horrifying, right? And so obviously it kind of begs the question then, is the mind flayer inside of her at this point, right? Is part of the mind flayer inside of her? Is this how she, was bitten before when the arm grabbed her ankle? And now this is part of the mind flayer that's going to infect her and possibly cause her to be part of the flayed. So really great stuff. Really great end of the episode and quite a cliffhanger. I will say, though, again, I thought this was a little lackluster of an ending. It was a good cliffhanger and all that. And it was very, horrifying, shocking. But I did expect something a little bit better. I mean, the monster from before, we don't see it at all again in the episode after that first scene. I was expecting something with the monster or Billy. Either one of them appears then at the mall, and that's how the end of this episode goes. But anyways, I guess next episode, they're really ramping up and really going to just push everything into that one. And so I'm looking forward to it. I think it's about 80 minutes now that I've checked. I'm down, but you gotta deliver a lot of stuff in that next episode, if this is the way you end this one. So anyways, again, good cliffhanger, but maybe could have been a little bit more. So just quickly then, a couple loose ends that I didn't talk about. The Steve and Robin dynamic in this one. Again, the drug scenes were just really redundant for me and kind of cringe at times. Again, that's not an original thing. We've seen that in almost every show and that stuff. So I didn't love that. And I thought the acting was pretty good though for it. I mean, I think Maya Hawke and Carrie, right? I thought they were okay, right? I thought they were okay. But it's just like, it just got kind of redundant after a while, right? A little repetitive, and it wasn't great. And then we get that scene where they're in the bathroom stalls, and Robin admits that she is, she likes girls instead of Steve, right? Because Steve kind of admits that he likes her, and then things kind of go awry when she says, I essentially liked this girl in our class and was jealous that she was looking at you instead of me. And then Steve kind of realizes it. So, again, I'm not sure. I mean, again, in a second last episode of a season, that scene was about 8 minutes long. So you're going to put that scene in a second last episode when the tension is high, you're picking up the pace, and then you're going to slow it down for a scene like that. Again, I thought the acting was really great here, but I just didn't quite get why that scene would be in this episode again. Maybe in an episode 4 have that scene play out. That would have been great. But just to have this whole thing play out here, just again, a little lackluster. So then we see Lucas and Will collecting fireworks as a backup for 11. I just want to mention that because I think that is going to play a part in the finale. Those fireworks being that kind of secondary weapon just in case 11 does somehow die or the monster neutralizes her or something like that. I think that will come back. I think they spent too much time on it for not to come back. And it would at least give the kids something to do. I mean, typically they don't do a lot. 11 just ends up, basically fighting it and ended up, killing the monster, closing the gate, and then the kids all, celebrate pretty much, right? They don't all do much, and so that might give them something to do. And then also Hopper and Joyce's sexual feelings for each other. That scene that played out, I don't know. I mean, obviously this is kind of what they're setting up for, but again, just a kind of on-the-nose scene there that in a second last episode, really? Is this something that needed to play out? I would have been just fine with them ended up kissing or something like that in the finale episode after everything's done. They just kiss and it plays out like that. They basically, admit their feelings for each other, and that's how it goes. Again, I just thought that scene was a little on the nose, a little bit pushy there, and you didn't really need that. So anyways, just a couple things there at the end for this one, but a really great cliffhanger to end off the episode. Alright, so in terms of a rating for this episode, I'm going to give this one a 4. A 4.0 out of 5. I just thought, again, this was a lackluster penultimate episode to a season. And maybe as a normal episode, maybe again as an episode 4, 5, or 6, maybe the rating would have been higher for an episode like this. And I think it's a decent episode. I mean, I don't think it's like that bad. I just think the place it's in, right? And I think it's not like it's just a short episode, to kind of bridge the gap to a finale. This is a 55-minute episode that just like didn't feel like a second last episode. Didn't feel like an episode that was setting up for a huge finale event type of thing. So a lot of meandering through this episode, and to me that just explains why the finale had to be 80 minutes long. And I think that's going to be the longest episode of the entire series so far, if I'm not wrong. And so, like maybe you could have done less meandering, less of these kind of slow scenes, and more of the action, pick up the pace a little bit, and then really send it home with something big at the end. And then the finale doesn't have to be 80 minutes. It can be, an hour. It can be 50 minutes. And just make it a little bit tighter. I just felt like the script was a little bit too loose and just not as polished as it could have been. And so, in my opinion, that would be one of the main negatives for this one. And I will say this as well. I said in the other reviews that I was kind of giving it a chance. I was like, all right, the Duffer Brothers aren't behind these ones. I still think episode 1 and 2 are the best of what I've seen so far of the 7 episodes. And so I'm a little bit surprised that the Duffer Brothers are back in this episode with the writing, but the good writing, right, or that peak writing level that we've seen in the series before is not back. So I was just a little bit taken aback by this, that the writing that we've seen in the last few episodes that I have not been impressed with is the same in this one, yet the Duffer Brothers are back doing the writing. So I was a bit disappointed with that. Again, I love the directing style of the Duffer Brothers, and really directing style throughout the entire series. I think the directing has never been, a negative for the series, but the writing I think is the main problem here. And I don't know, I just don't think this is the Duffer Brothers' best work, but maybe the finale will really impress. One more thing I want to mention is that there's too many characters for this story this season, and some have just become almost pointless at this point. I mean, pretty much think about it, every character except for maybe 11, Mike, every other character has been obviously kind of reduced, right? And that's just because of the sheer number of characters that are in the story this season. And it's really tough, and I kind of feel for some of the cast members who had such a big role in season 1 and now just almost completely faded to the background. I mean, Will, look, what has he done this season, right? I mean, the past 2 seasons, he was a host. The Mind Flayer was in him, and then he was taken in season 1. And this season, it's like they gave him nothing to do. Like, nothing to do. And very similar to Lucas, I mean, at the very beginning with Max, maybe. Max hasn't had that much to do. Maybe with Max and 11, a little bit of that dynamic. Joyce and Hopper have been reduced to this kind of gimmick of the entire season, yet they've had a lot of screen time. But their characters haven't been fleshed out at all. We haven't seen anything of that. And so to me, I just felt like maybe you should have killed some characters off or not added as many this season. And that maybe would help in a way that these characters have been kind of faded into the background and maybe bring some more of them up. Because, I mean, like, I don't think it's possible to have that many characters and be able to give them equal screen time and give them time to develop, in the way that they have in previous seasons. So, anyways, those are my thoughts there. Favorite character for this one, I'm going to go with Dustin Henderson, played by Gaten Matarazzo. Really great in this episode. He's kind of the de facto leader now of his little group there, because Steve and Robin are usually the sensical people that know what to do are drugged, and so Dustin has to take over. Also, kind of given orders to Erica as well in this episode. I just love the way he played this one. Gaten Matarazzo, I think, is one of the better actors in the show, and he's always been one of my favorite characters since season 1. And he's been really great in season 3. I will say he is not one that is faded into the background. And honestly, if he wouldn't have been separated from the rest of the kids, I think he would have been. So I think Gaten Matarazzo got kind of, I wouldn't say lucky, but I think he really benefited from being separated, having a bigger role this season, and I really like his character. But anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for my review for this episode. I'm really looking forward to next episode for the finale, because a lot of stuff has to happen for me to really be able to put this over season 1 at this point, because I thought this was a really lackluster penultimate episode. But either way, guys, thank you so much for watching this one, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode and the season in general. But that's about it. So then we'll see you next episode then of Stranger Things for season 3, episode 8, the finale.